But here's the problem. You've dishonored the poor man. You've dishonored the poor man. James here is a pastor, and apparently what's happening at their church is somebody decided that what you would do at a sporting event or what you would do at a concert is a good idea for the church. James is saying you're dishonoring those who are poor, like my father. Right? James' father, Jesus' father, was Joseph. He was a poor man. James is saying, this isn't right. If my mom and dad came to church, you'd put them on the floor or stand them in the back, but it's the pastor's parents, it's the Lord's parents. This is not right. If Jesus came to this church, they would have sat him on the floor or made him stand up in the back because he was poor. James says that's dishonorable. You start to get the sense that the world and the church are supposed to operate differently. None of us would have a problem going to a sporting event or going to a concert and paying for a seat, and then whatever money we pay determines where we are. And in church, it troubles us if that were the case. Are not the rich ones who oppress you and the ones who drag you into court? Not all rich people are evil, but in this case, the rich people were evil. They were oppressing and taking advantage of the poor who could not legally defend themselves. Are they not the ones who blaspheme the honorable name by which you were called? He says, there's even some unbelievers that are showing up, or some people who are like Judas who claim to be believers, but they're not. And they've got a lot of money, and they're suing and taking advantage of and hiring, but not paying the Christians who are poor and defenseless. And he says, how do you think that feels when the poor people come in and the people who are suing them and stealing from them get the seats up front, and they're supposed to sit on the floor like a piece of furniture? Okay. Here's my question. Does this bother you? That's my first question. How many of you say, yeah, actually this bothers me? Here's my second question. Why? Okay. Immediately you just want to rush to indignation. Right? This is just wrong. We shouldn't be like this. You should be seated wherever you want to be seated. All people should be treated equal. There should not be partiality like this. Okay. Well, there's the conscience that God gave you, but here's my question. On what basis? On what basis would you make that kind of moral determination? If you're here and you're not a Christian, let me submit to you that if you believe in a pure evolutionary theory, you have no right to be upset. You're being a hypocrite. Because if you believe in a purely evolutionary worldview, here's the idea. Some people are more advanced and involved than others. Some people win, some people lose. It's the weak against the strong, and only the fittest survive. So if the rich guy wins and the poor guy loses, that's just natural selection as applied to church seating charts. You have no right, if you believe in a purely evolutionary worldview, to start throwing around words like discrimination or partiality or prejudice. You don't. You just need to put your moral flag down, and you need to deal with your ideology because it doesn't allow you to argue against partiality. It doesn't. Okay. Some of you would come here and you're part of another religion. You have a more religious ideology, and you might say similarly, this really troubles me, profoundly bothers me. My question is, why? See, the difference between Christianity and other religions is, in other religions, you get what you earn. It's works. With Christianity, you get what Jesus earns. It's grace. Because we believe in grace. We believe in Jesus. We believe that people should be treated equal. But if you believe in a religious ideology or philosophy, you believe in karma, that some people have paid off more debt than others, and if they're suffering in this life, we shouldn't help them because after all, we could be interrupting their karmic debt payback. Some religions teach levels of enlightenment that some of us have reincarnated, some of us have become more enlightened, some of us are more evolved. I remember having a debate with Deepak Chopra on Nightline, and he talked about how he had reached higher levels of consciousness, What that means is I'm more spiritually advanced than you. You're more, and he used this language, primitive. If you believe that, well, then the primitive people sit on the floor or stand in the back. And us more enlightened people, we sit up front because we've earned it. We've gotten to a higher state of consciousness. I learned this some years ago. I was in Florida and met a very affluent Jewish businessman who I built a bit of a relationship with at the time, and was talking to him about Jesus. And he said, "Oh, you want to come see my synagogue?" Yeah, sure, I've read about, okay, whatever. Go to the synagogue. It was beautiful. This is a very affluent neighborhood, very nice, wow, synagogue. And he said, "My family sits here." I said, "All the time?" He said, "Yeah, well, these are our seats." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, we bought these seats." What the? What? I was like, okay, this is evil and a potential way to make budget at Mars Hill. This was some years ago. I said, "Explain that." He said, "Well, a lot of the Jewish people in this community, we don't go to synagogue very often, but for the holidays, the high holy days, the place is packed and you can't get a seat. So," he said, "it's kind of like getting box seating at a sporting event. You can buy seats that belong to your family, so you have good reserved seating for the high holy days." Huh. Well, just like James is talking about. See, religion teaches you earn it. You pay for your seat through your enlightenment, through your good works, through your reincarnation and paying off your karmic debt, through your evolutionary consciousness. You earn your seat. And some people get a better seat than other people because some people are better than other people. If you're troubled by this, it's because God gave you a conscience. But if you believe in a purely evolutionary worldview or a purely religious worldview, you have no right to get upset. And if you are upset, you're a hypocrite. You're inconsistent. You have no basis for your frustration.